President of the Dominican Republic, Luis Abinader, recently spoke in an address to the nation about all that's happening in the world, including increasing costs and everything else. And I'm going to talk today about what he talked about, what everybody's up in arms about, which I completely understand. But then I'm going to give you a take that might be a bit unique. Actually, I think it's completely unique. I don't think anybody has this take. And I'm going to share what I think at the end of this video. And by the way, I'm going to do this completely raw. No edits. I'm just going to riff for a little bit because this is just on my mind. And it's, I don't know, maybe frustrating for me, especially for folks out there that want something to happen, but aren't seeing what they think they should see. I think there's a way around that. So let's dive into this. Iran, the war, all of that's happening is creating upward pressure on prices, particularly around food, fertilizer, and a lot of different things. Gas, how can I forget gas? Oil, gas, all of that is increasing in price because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is 20% of all oil exports go through there. Lots of chaos happening in the Middle East, and it has a downstream effect. Remember, DR imports all of its oil, every bit of it. So that alone is going to create upward pressure on people's budgets in the country. So Abinader went on stage or went on TV and said, hey, here's what we're doing. And he went one by one through all the different areas. And for the most part, it was reasonable. It made sense, whatever. I'm not going to get into every specific thing. But there was one thing that was very, at least poorly said, and at worst, poorly executed, or will be poorly executed. And we'll talk about that. At least that's my opinion. But as far as his giving the talk, I think it was well timed. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's smart of him to go out and address the nation. He talked about prosperity. He talked about, he wants to continue the track on GDP growth. And a lot of people saw that, the GDP growth push, as tone deaf, how it doesn't put food in people's houses, how it doesn't put money in people's pockets. And I get that. But probably the part that he said that I think deserves the most scrutiny is is talking about shared sacrifice around the cost of oil. In general, or in essence, the amount being subsidized for oil this year already is like well ahead of proposed and even expanded budgets for the year. So in other words, hey, we plan to spend X, we could get to Y. We know we might have to spend more, but at the pace we're going at, there's no way we can get to Z. So when it comes to the cost of gas and oil, we're gonna have to share that sacrifice. When you're a government official speaking to somebody like me, whatever, when you're a government official speaking to the lowest economic sector in the Dominican Republic, shared sacrifice, that doesn't land very well. So again, as politicians go, they deserve credit when credit is due. They deserve scrutiny when scrutiny is due, or criticism. And in this case, I would say, again, well-timed speech, the right thing to do. As a leader of a nation, you should get out in front of something like this because it does impact, your constituents. However, I think his speechwriters could have probably more artfully used phrases versus, shared sacrifice, and maybe even more importantly, direct more of that funding toward making sure that the shocks are absorbed, especially for the lowest income Dominicans, which some of his language seemed to indicate that, but still, it may not have been communicated as well, and or the policy itself may have some holes in it. So those are my thoughts on Abinader's talk. Now, here's the thing. When I think about the war, and I think about what it does, and I think about the increases that it may create in cost to a lot of people, not just in the Dominican Republic, but around the world, I don't know. Most of us, you watching, me, when we see a 10%, 20% increase in gas prices in a month or whatever it might be. I mean, reality is if you're spending $100 a month, now you're spending 110 or 120. Most of us can absorb those shocks, thankfully. Most people that are on the low end of the socioeconomic ladder here, all of them for that matter, really struggle to absorb that big an impact. My issue though is why, whether you're in the Dominican Republic, United States, Europe, Canada, why and where have we become so reliant on politicians and governments to provide for us, to provide for our neighbors? Now, look, we pay a lot of taxes into these institutions. I get it. But where have they ever proven, truthfully, Where have they ever proven that they are the best stewards of that money? And more importantly, where have they ever proven that they have anything other than the most interest in themselves and their own interests? So I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, if you can absorb a 10% shock at the pump or at the grocery store, which God bless, I hope you can. If you can absorb an increase in, monthly expenses, if you're going about your life the same way, which again, I know the news portrays like all these people suffering, and there are, but a lot of people can. And a lot of people watching this and a lot of people that get on and talk about like, oh, this is such garbage. Government should do this. Government needs to do that. Da, 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 da. I don't disagree. I don't disagree with the should, but that doesn't help anybody. So how about this instead? Skip a latte this month. Donate $8 to a cause that supports local Dominicans if they are on your heart. Get the the store brand item instead of the name brand item at your local grocery store. And instead, the difference on that grocery bill, the $11 or $12, submit that to a charity like John Peame or Second Mile Missions or whatever that helps local people on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. I'm at a point in my life, and maybe you can relate to this if you're in your 40s, 50s, maybe 60s. I don't know what 50s and 60s feel like yet. But I'm at a point in my life where it's like, what is the value in whining and complaining? As I, for the last 6 minutes, have whined and complained about whining and complaining. Oh, the irony. None of us are perfect. But you get my point. Like, what is the value of whining and complaining when we have the means to take care of our neighbors? Look, my wife and I went last night to a charity auction for artwork. Something I know nothing about. But the people that created the art are orphans from an orphanage locally. And the money that all of us bid, and we won 2 pieces of art. So there you go. But the money that all of us bid went to 2 different charities. One for the orphanage itself to help those kids, to help out that institution that is the orphanage. But second is going to a group that funds music education for kids in underprivileged communities, donates instruments, all of that. And when you're at this event and these kids come in and they sing like the Do Re Mi song from Sound of Music in perfect English in chorus, it was beautiful. My heart, my tears, like I was just like, oh my God, like donate more. How do we bid more? Bid more for the pieces of art to help those kids. Then they come in with their instruments and they're playing like cellos and violins, like things these kids would not have the opportunity to do. To me, it's like, this is what it's supposed to be. People coming together, scraping a little bit extra money that they might be able to spend somewhere else if they have the means to help out their neighbors, their local kids, people in their community. I don't know. Governments have gotten to a point of wanting to promise you the world. I look at what's happening in New York with this whole, like, we're going to give you free everything, and then everybody leaves, and now it's like, well, we got to tax you more. Or even better, if you saw Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, in 2022, like, get out! Leave New York, you don't represent us. Talking about the wealthiest folks in the state that might be right-leaning and don't agree with her politically. And now she's coming out and saying, hey, let's go to Palm Beach and tell those folks we need you back. Our tax base has eroded, she said. That's what happens when you promise the world through your government and then you don't deliver on that. I'm sick of it. It's ridiculous. Tax me, whatever. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to figure out a way to add enough value in this world to provide for my family and to hopefully provide to the extent that I can for my community. My community happens to be Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. My expanded community happens to be Dominican Republic. That's where I want my money to go. That's who I want to help. That's who I have the capacity to help. So if you're sitting right now in New York or Allentown or Miami or the DMV or Toronto, or Europe, wherever you might be, and you've got ties to DR, you have love for DR, you're seeing what's happening and you can't believe what this politician said. And even now, you're about to comment like, Jamie, that's really good. However, Abinader, like, stop. Do something. That's it. Do something. Whining and complaining is not doing something. It's just not. I don't know. I'm past it. $8, $12, $100, $1,000, whatever you can do. And if you already are doing, amazing. Amazing. Maybe you send remittances to family. Maybe you're helping the best you can right now in your community. I know last night when we put our bid in for this artwork, it added up. It added up to a lot of money, but it was like, I don't want to spend this money, but if this is helping kids in this community, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And I'm not saying that to be cool. I'm saying that because I think a lot of times when somebody like me gets on and says, hey, here's something you can do, I think it's important to have credibility in that and say, I've done this. I donated $5,000 to a cause recently, and I matched dollar for dollar that $5,000 so that we could get 2 orphan boys, homeless boys, education and housing. Last night, we bought this artwork. We won 2 pieces, and we spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on art that's going to, I guess, decorate our home, whatever my wife's going to do with it. But more importantly, it's going to give local kids something that they may not have been able to do otherwise. So I guess I'm just saying, look, I saw the speech, I read the speech, I heard the speech. I think, again, it was well-timed. I think it was the right thing to do. I think there was definitely some stuff in there that's questionable, that's worthy of criticism. It's, yes to all. Yes, there was good. Yes, there was bad. But just, who cares? Do something. Handle your business, whatever it might be. Look, here's something you can easily do. If you subscribe to this channel, if you subscribe or follow on Instagram and TikTok, every follower and subscriber, I donate 2 cents to Second Mile Missions. This quarter, it was over $500 donated to help build schools in DR for kids. That's the whole mission of Second Mile Missions. That's what we do. However I can help, that's what I got. Anyway, that's my video. I wanted to share that with all of you. Would love to know your thoughts. Drop it down below. Do you agree, disagree? Again, I always say disagree with the point. Don't attack the person. I'm perfectly good with that. But would love to hear your thoughts. But I just think, hey, let's get this message out there. Yes, it sucks. Yes, we don't want to see the shocks to the system that we're seeing. Yes, we don't want to see the people that are the most underprivileged be taxed with additional expense that they just simply can't afford. And all of us collectively have the power to help them absorb that shock for what would probably be minimal sacrifice, true shared sacrifice on our end. Whether a politician says it or not, whether a politician does the right thing or not, irrelevant. Let's do the right thing together as a community. That's what I got. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you on the next one.